Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have some huge news to share with you. This has been something that I have known about and wanted to share with you about 2 weeks ago now, but I have kept it under wraps as best as I can. The news is I am going to be competing at the WBFF World Championships in Vegas coming up here in the first or second week of August. So I have started my prep 2 weeks ago now and have felt so positive and motivated. So I know a lot of you guys are probably wondering, like, what on earth is this girl doing? She's been talking to us about, psychological benefits of taking a break from dieting and working on your mental health and well-being. And that's a really good point. And I'd say, yeah, fair call. You called me out. But something that I have really felt like was missing in my life is some kind of performance-related goal. So I have had 2 years since kind of undertaking anything remotely related to body composition. My goal was not to have a goal and to be flexible and just allow things to happen and just sit with it and be comfortable with all of that. And I have to say, I'm incredibly glad that I did that. I think looking back at the kind of 5 years of competing, kind of leading up to the point of 2019, I was invested in bodybuilding for the wrong reasons. Some of you may have actually seen the video that I put up last week, which was, some considerations for why you should compete. And I went through all of those with you guys. And the main one that really stood out to me was understanding your why. And as I'm reading those out and writing this article, I was like, wow, I wasn't competing for the right reasons. Truly, I wasn't. So I'm really happy that I've taken a couple of years away from the bodybuilding scene to feel good about myself. And what really motivates me this time around is that I feel like I'm focusing on this for business reasons. I have some huge goals that I want to achieve with our companies this year. So that's kind of the main driver behind why I'm doing this. And I actually have something also really exciting to share with you guys. Next week, I'm going to be launching something on Monday. So if you are following along on this journey, you guys are truly hearing this first. No one else knows. Please stay tuned for that. Something huge is coming. Thinking to, why, I felt compelled to do this. And a lot of people did really kind of question that. I had flack, well, not flack, but just, a lot of questions were asked, especially from Lane, hubby. He's supported me through all of these contest preps over the last few years. And he kind of said, well, are you sure this is right for you? You've kind of just recovered from what we would say was a pretty severe eating disorder. And that was like something that spanned, 15 years for me. And I can say with absolute confidence that I feel great. Like right now, starting prep where I am, I love how I feel. Like, I don't mind if my weight shifts up a little bit. I don't mind if I'm a little bit leaner. It just doesn't bother me. Like, I am who I am and I'm just so comfortable in my skin. So I think this is going to be a completely different prep for me. It's going to be challenging. Preps are always difficult. There's going to be an element of restriction at some point. And it's going to get really hard. Like, I know there probably are going to be some tears throughout this just because it is overwhelmingly difficult. And that's why I said in last week's video, are you prepared for the sacrifice? Because competing absolutely is something that interferes with your friendships, your relationships, your business. If you are somebody going to school, heck yes, it's going to interfere with your ability to concentrate and study. So, you have to be prepared for that. And this wasn't something that I had even considered. I'd started prepping several clients for shows, 2 of which are competing in the same show against me now. They're like some of my best friends. So it's kind of fun. So, I've already started prepping others with zero thought about it, and just going through some kind of personal goals, a little bit of brainstorming, I think a few weekends ago. I was like, what is missing? I feel like there's big gaping hole and I can't really sink my teeth into anything right now. And I think that's what it was. I'm very excited. I'm going to go through with you today and show you how I'm setting up for this prep, what I'm going to do, what are the things that I need to consider, how can I do better than last time? Because my goal, if I'm going to do this, I'm going there to win the world title. I placed top 5 last time I competed in the Bahamas, and I know exactly where, I went wrong. I absolutely need to invest a lot more time this year with my posing and really just, again, embracing my body and being confident And it's still something that doesn't come naturally to me. But I think not having all of that, I guess, self-judgment and criticism at how I look, I feel like that's going to be a really positive thing for when it comes time to actually rehearsing and doing all of the posing and routines. So that's something that I'm 100% already practicing now. Previously, I would leave it to 6 weeks out, and I'd have a couple of sessions and I'd go over it and over it. So that's the first thing that I'm going to be doing quite a bit differently this year. In fact, for anybody that is interested or is located here in Florida, there's actually going to be a workshop in Orlando on the 6th of June. So that's a Sunday. I believe it starts at 11 o'clock. I've seen a thread of girls that are already going to be attending. We've kind of got a group WhatsApp chat going. So if you guys want to come along, if there's anybody in Florida that's planning on competing with the WBFF, whether or not you're competing at Worlds or another show, that will be a really great workshop to come along and get some practice and say hi. That's the first thing that I think I will be doing a little bit differently to previous years. I also feel like I've had enough time away from dieting that I've really made some huge progress in my physique. Eating, at a really good calorie level for most of 2020, putting on quite a bit of muscle mass during that time in my legs, which I think is the area that I was kind of lacking. And I've also taken a bunch of time off training my upper body. So that was something that I think was a little bit overpowering for the division I was going to be competing in. So as a fitness model, the girls are very conditioned. Like when we get on stage, we're probably going to be just under 10% body fat, roughly. And they're, very symmetrical, but the level of muscularity that I think I had in my upper body was probably closer to figure, which is the next kind of level up in the size of your muscle, for those that don't know so much about it. So I've had 2 years really to kind of detrain my upper body and 2 years to blow up my quads and my glutes. So I think that I am really in a great position to do well from a physique point of view. I am so excited about this. So let's jump in and have a look at how I've actually set up my fat loss phase for the next 12 weeks. All right, so I started my prep at 69 kilos. For those of you that work in pounds, I think that's about 152 or 153 pounds. Let me just do the math real quick. Okay, 69 times 2.2046. 152.1 pounds. Okay, so that's where I started at. So if I'm to work out where I think I need to be getting on stage, I just look straight back to what I was a couple of years ago. However, one thing that we do know for certain is that I have added a significant amount of lean body mass since then. If I had to guess, just looking at photographs, I've probably put on 1.5 to maybe even 2 kilos of lean muscle in my glutes and my quads. Last time I got on stage, I was at about 60.5 the week of stepping on stage. So I'm going to assume this year, I actually might be getting on stage a little heavier. So probably 61.5 kilos, and I would intend on being even leaner than last time. So I'm gonna say I probably need to be about 61.5. So if we go 69 minus 61.5 as a rough estimate, that means I need to lose 7.5 kilos over the next 12 weeks. Now, I started 2 weeks ago, so I've had 14 weeks in total, and I actually plan to take 2 diet breaks. I don't know when they're gonna be, probably closer towards the end, maybe after week 5 or 6 as the diet starts to become a little bit more restrictive. So that means I actually only have 12 weeks where I'm going to be in a calorie deficit. So if I divide that 7.5 by 12 weeks, that is 0.62 of a kilogram each week on average. So weight loss is never linear. It usually happens in a bit of a step-like fashion. It's just the way it is. But this would be what I'm looking to get each week or over, a course of 3 weeks. I would expect to be sitting at about 1.8 kilograms in total. I know a lot of people will freak out if their first week they don't lose weight and maybe their second week dieting, they're just behind where they want to be, but it might be just on the 3rd week, your weight drops. And then we're looking at that average of say a 3-week total amount of weight loss. So as a percentage of my body weight, we're gonna go divided by 69. So that's about 0.9% of my weight, which is getting close to a more aggressive target. So when we think about an appropriate amount of weight loss each week, for somebody that is truly just a normal body weight, for females, I'm thinking, body fat percentage within the healthy BMI range, I guess we'll refer to that, somewhere between say 20 and 26 as a BMI. I'm sitting right within that normal, a little bit lower. For me, I'm trying to keep my weekly average weight loss between either 0.4% of my body weight or maybe up to as much as 1.2% of my body weight per week. I'm kind of right on the upper end of what's safe, but I think that for me, also knowing how I operate, when I diet, I don't like to have a huge amount of time before I get on stage because I'm not focused. Like I find that I really am able to focus well when I'm like, okay, you've got a deadline, it's coming up, you have to commit to this, you need to be serious. So for me, if I tried to do, and I have done in the past, a longer 20-week prep, similar amount of weight to lose, maybe a little bit more, I didn't switch on until like 10 weeks out or 12 weeks out. Because the first few weeks, you're not seeing a huge amount of change, and I would just lose my focus on the weeks, especially where I would have diet breaks. So that's another reason why I'm not incorporating lots of diet breaks throughout this fat loss phase. Despite the research showing their significant, benefit or being superior to a continuous fat loss phase, I know for me as an individual that they aren't necessarily the best thing for me from a psychological aspect. Like I said, I feel like I kind of switch off. So I'm only incorporating 2. More would probably be better if I'm to be truly concerned with maximizing the retention of my lean body mass and to mitigate some changes potentially in my BMR. But I also don't want to end up undoing the work that I've done by screwing up the whole fat loss phase because I've added an extra diet break and I just went YOLO or just switched off. That's kind of where I'm at with my targets for the moment. So I'm gonna hop on to the Carbon Diet Coach, so my coaching app, which by the way, you guys can all use to help you with your fat loss goals, or if you're reverse dieting, or if you're building muscle, or hey, like me for the last 2 years, kind of just maintaining. You can use the app for any of those goals and it will coach you just like you're checking with your coach on a weekly basis, and it will provide you with your new updated targets. So let's hop in and have a look at Carbon, and we'll be able to see what my targets were for my first week of fat loss, and then we'll do a check-in and see what the coach recommends for this coming week based on the changes that we've seen with my weight. All right, so I've got Carbon open. First off, I'm gonna go back and show you the last 7 days of my tracking. We'll take a look at my calories, we'll have a look at my compliance to my protein targets, and then we'll have a look at fat and carbs. And then I'm also going to talk to you very briefly about fiber, because it correlates very nicely with a few of the changes that happened with my weight this week, which is important to consider. If people deviate too far from their normal averages, even with things like fiber, it will skew your weigh-ins and you will get the wrong macro targets provided to you. So I want to talk to you about that today because it's one of the things that may have influenced my numbers, but we'll come to that in a second. Let's start off with this week's calories. So you're all going to go, oh my God, look at the numbers. However, keep in mind, I am a sedentary human. I go to the gym, train really hard, and then I sit down or stand in front of a computer. So my maintenance calories are kind of low. They're not that flexible because I'm not very active. If I had a more physical job and I was running around all day, I'd probably be able to consume, 2,500 calories, but I don't. So that's the reality of things. So when I first entered in my targeted rate of weight loss, which is about 0.6 kilograms per week, the drop was pretty significant. So we'll go in and see what I was targeting. So if we go to my macro targets, you will see there on the screen, I am at 1696 for my first week of prep. I've set my protein at 151 grams. It's a couple of grams higher than what I was in my kind of off season, but again, I'm dieting, so I want to make sure that I have a sufficient amount of protein coming in to minimize the potential of any of my own protein stores being used for energy. So a little bit higher than what I normally would, but still within the recommended protein ranges. Again, this is all told to you by Carbon. If you sign up, you can go in and you can see the range and you pick what you like, which is pretty neat. My carbohydrate target I've set at 165. And my fat target is at 48. And again, if I go into the diet preferences, you can see there on the screen that I can move things around. So if I wanted to change my carbohydrates, take them down a little bit, if I felt that I enjoyed fats a little bit more, you can see I can do that. So it's going to keep my calories steady, my protein doesn't change, but I can just move those numbers around based on my personal preferences for foods. So that's pretty neat. So we'll keep that there. So that's my targets, a little bit restrictive, but honestly, it wasn't too bad this week. I did a lot of meal prep, had a good think about some foods that I wanted to have to be consistent throughout the week, and had a dandy week, as you're about to see. So if we go to my calories, first up, so I'll take you back to Monday of last week. So unlike other weeks that you've seen previously on my, check-ins, which kind of look a lot like this, you'll see there that I'm a lot more steady this week because I've committed to a goal. It's great. So yeah, not a lot of flux throughout most of the week until Saturday. And I gotta be honest, we went to a comedy show on Saturday. We had cocktails in the afternoon out by the water, and then we went out to a bar afterwards and had dinner. So I wasn't really paying attention to my calories or my foods, to be honest. I actually underate quite a bit on Saturday, and you're gonna see where I underate from, which wasn't necessarily the best thing, but hey, this is me week one, just testing out the waters, and hopefully I'll have a better week next week, but didn't stress me out at all. So if we go over and have a look now at my protein intake from Monday last week, this is the macronutrient that always fluctuates for me. I probably do need to be a little bit better at tempering how much protein I eat. Not that there's anything wrong with, having a crazy high protein intake on just 1 or 2 days. Preferably, if we're thinking about the types of activity that I'm doing, and most of the time it's lifting, the primary fuel source is carbohydrate. So if I start to go too high with my protein, and that's now going to start taking away potentially from my carbohydrates, I may start to compromise my performance. I didn't notice anything this past week, but it's week one. So I think again, the closer we get to, show day, the more, disciplined I'll need to be with keeping that a bit steadier. But if there was a macro I was going to go over with, I would always choose protein because it is more thermic than the others. So it costs more to break it down and metabolize. So I had a really nice day on Friday, apparently, 193 grams of protein. That's pretty much what Lane eats, just to give you some reference points for how much that is. But I'm definitely a creature of habit, and I love protein. Like Lane and I had steaks the other night. I've just ordered these delicious lamb shanks from Australia, which I cannot wait. I think I'm gonna pick those up tomorrow. So I like grilled meats, definitely. So anyway, let's go and have a look at my carbohydrates for this past week. Okay, so a lot steadier than you will have seen in some of my other check-ins, just being a little bit more conscious throughout the week. So we can see there 177, 158, 153, 167. We're kind of staying within a 10-gram buffer here, which is pretty good for me. And I'm happy with that for a first week of prep. Lucky last, fats. Let's scroll across. Very little fluctuation. So my weekly average came in at 46, which is great. It's a gram less than my target and very steady. You can see there that there's little fluctuation. In fact, 3 days in a row, it was right on 50. And yeah, I'm right on target, which is awesome. My weight is interesting. If we see here, I started at 68 last week on Monday, and it's trending down. You can see there by Sunday, I weighed in at 65.7. So that's a pretty decent drop. If we look from when I first started 2 weeks ago, I was 69. I've lost about 3.2 kilograms. So for those that use pounds, that's 6.61 pounds of weight. in 2 weeks. So I do want to quickly draw your attention to a couple of things. So I just said to you on Saturday, we went out to the theatre, saw some comedy, had a few drinks, and didn't hit my targets very well on that day. So that weigh-in on Sunday at 65.7 perfectly correlates with my fiber intake. Now, let's just go and have a look at that because it was terrible. Let me go and have a look at like a Thursday check-in. So this is a midweek fiber intake for me. So 30 grams of fiber on Friday, and most of the other days during the week, it's probably in the realm of 23 to 30. If I go to Saturday, I had a staggering 9 grams of fiber. I think I had breakfast, and I chose a different breakfast than I normally do. Normally that's where I get a big portion of my fiber in. But I made tacos for breakfast, because you can. So I had tacos for breakfast on Saturday. And then I had liquid drinks like protein shakes, because we're out on the road traveling. And then when we got to the comedy show had started, we'd already been drinking. I was like, oh, there's nothing on the menu that would actually help me fit my macros. I assure you, there was nothing. So I was like, I'm actually gonna probably undereat on my macros today, and I'll make up for it a little bit on Saturday, because I didn't want to choose something that I had no idea what was in. Super fatty, everything was fried. And when I asked the waitress, hey, is there anything that you can grill? They were like, yeah, it's kind of already done. It's not like a standard restaurant, which makes sense. Fiber was really terrible on Saturday, and that's why I weighed in so low on the Sunday. So if we go back and have a look at that, you can see that my weight came back up again on Monday to 66.3. So my weekly average came in at 66.9. So quite a significant drop. So I'm interested to see what the coach does today when I check in. And the other thing is, I also got my cycle yesterday out of nowhere. I was like, what is this? So my weight is probably elevated right now. Normally I go up by a kilo. So I think when I'm consistent with my macros and I hit things, like the weight comes off. So, and I've changed nothing with my cardio. I'm still doing my 4 regular resistance training sessions. I've been doing every other week a spin class for 45 minutes. I didn't do that this week. Instead, I went on the Stairmaster for 30 minutes, and I knew we were going to be doing a little bit of a bike ride on the weekend with families. So yeah, nothing else changed. It was just me being dead on with my macros. So let's go and check in, eh? All right, so the coach is, I'm right on my check-in day, which is perfect. Was I compliant to my macros? Ding, ding, ding. Yes. So you can see there the range for, I guess, compliance is 1655 to 1737. And I've got all green. I have not seen that in a long time. So I'm going to go and hit yes for I was compliant. My weight today was the 66.3. So we'll put that in. I don't know my body fat. I have not taken it in probably 2 or 3 weeks. So I might do that next week just to see some meaningful change. And then it's asking, am I close to my menstrual cycle? And I'm gonna have to say yes. Yep. Does everything look okay? Yep, all that was correct. I didn't do anything dyslexic. Yes, it says the right number, good. And then the coach is going to spit out my numbers, and I feel like it's lost a lot. Ooh, okay, so coach says, looks like you lost a lot of weight this week. It looks like your calories are too low since you lost far more than we expected. For this reason, we are going to increase your calories a little. This should help to slow down your weight loss to the correct rate. So it's put me back at 1947, thank God. But that's a really good sign. I'm gonna keep my protein where they are. It means that I've got my carbs up to 203 and my fats are at 59. And again, if I wanted to, I could go in and change this ratio. But right now that looks fine to me. I think if anything, I prefer carbohydrates, knowing again, I do resistance training. There's a little bit of hit in there. So, and I like sweets, what can I say? So that will be my target for this week. What I found really interesting, and I do want to talk about this real quick, is when I was going back and looking at all of my calorie intakes for the last couple of months. So I was checking in with you guys and I hadn't been compliant, right? There were several weeks in a row I was like, no, 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 no. So the coach kind of just kept me at a slightly lower calorie intake until I checked in and had a compliant week. But I went back and had a look at all my data, and I may actually just show you this really quickly because I found this quite interesting. So one of the features in Carbon is you can go back and have a look at your monthly information. So anything to do with your weight, your maintenance calories, consumed calories. So my weight was holding steady for the last month at 67.5. And if I go and look at my average calories, and we'll choose the monthly view, based on what I was logging, I've got to sweep over here a little bit just to make sure I'm not in my dieting days. My average calorie intake was actually 1913, which should suggest to me my maintenance was actually a little bit higher than what I had been targeting because I wasn't being compliant. So I think that it makes sense based on how much weight I've lost in the first week on these kind of lower calories. I was kind of freaking out thinking, oh my God, really? Is my maintenance that low? But yeah, this week kind of has really just been eye-opening for me to go, oh yeah, I think just you weren't actually tracking correctly. Your maintenance was a little bit higher. So anyways, that's that. On other exciting news, I do have a couple of things. So Outwork today being Monday, you're gonna get this Tuesday, just launched our first caffeine-free pre-workout. Came out in a tropical candy flavor. It has everything exactly the same as the other pre-workout. It just doesn't have the caffeine. Now, I know there are a lot of you folks out that have been asking for this. I know half of you are gonna be like, what? Who doesn't want a pre-workout with caffeine? But there are a lot of people with a caffeine sensitivity. So especially if they are required to train in the evenings, let's say their work or their job calls them to be at the office at like 6. Like you don't want to get up at 4 o'clock. Like some people will, but for the most part, I can see that most would choose to work out in the evenings. So if you took our pre-workout, it has 350 milligrams of caffeine. It's like the maximum allowed, I guess, the government FDA regulation. For somebody like that is sensitive to caffeine, they may experience like not only the jitters and maybe a rapid heart rate. That's a normal symptom of caffeine. It's kind of how it works. In fact, it causes vasodilation, helps with your performance. But if you are caffeine sensitive, you may find that you actually struggle to go to sleep because caffeine has a 6 or 7 hour half-life. So whatever dose you have in 6 or 7 hours, you're still going to be at 50% of your initial dose. So if you're going to bed at 10 o'clock, you've still got 150, 175 milligrams of caffeine in your system. So that's kind of the reason behind why we brought this out. Now, you may even be somebody that wants to do a scoop of the real with the caffeine and then the new tropical candy caffeine free. And that way you're still getting the full dose, so the efficacious dose of all the other ingredients in our supplement in the pre, but you've got half of the caffeine dose now. So you've got options. That's really exciting. I probably won't be using the caffeine-free version. I am able to metabolize caffeine very quickly. I've had my DNA tested several years ago with Lane, and I think it's the P-gamma liver enzyme. Basically, it processes caffeine really quickly. So I have no issues with that, but I know there are some of you that are. So that's super exciting. We also brought out a new flavor the week before in strawberry lemonade, which I love. Definitely going to be making use of that for this prep. I'll probably be a little bit choosy with when I include it. Like if I feel good just endogenously and I don't need to have any like pep, I probably won't have it, because when I do and I am feeling a little flat and tired, like I'm going to be able to really notice that switch. So I will be choosy with when I'm using it. I generally have a lot of energy, which is great. I know it's probably gonna start to go down. So you'll just see me doing my next check-in. I'll just be laying there dry scooping caffeine before I film. It's very possible. But that's been really exciting for us. So we had those two, and we have a new one coming next week as well. So a lot of new stuff coming to you guys. You are finding out first right here on my check-ins. Like I said, next week's going to be a huge week. I have something really personal that I'm sharing with you guys in light of the upcoming Road to World Championships. So please stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. If you've got any questions about prep, about Carbon Diet Coach, how the app works, is it suitable for you? anything, please ask, and I will be sure to jump in on those comments and respond to you personally. So have a great week. I know I will. Very excited for this prep, and I will see you next check-in.